Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon, where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story, one episode per day. And today, on the 23rd of November 2017, Doctor Who's 54th anniversary, we are starting the Patrick Troughton story, The Tomb of the Cybermen. And this story picks up right where the evil of the Daleks left off, and is the opener to season 5 of the show. And the first episode continues the trend of the evil of the Daleks being excellent, except for the cliffhanger, which is, well, very weak. Mainly because the story seems to be basically the story starring the Cybermen, with the Cybermen in the title, but the cliffhanger is, well, surprise, it's the Cybermen. Can you believe it? I sure as hell can't, because who would think Cybermen in a story that's called The Tomb of the Cybermen? It's just one of those dumb things that, um, you know, it's one of those things that just you just sort of it's boring because you really should. It's one of those things that you really should see coming, but you don't. And I have to say that's one part of the story that's really, really dumb, just because you'd be expecting, the Doctor's, there's gonna be Cybermen, but other than that, the episode is really solid, mainly because there are quite a lot of interesting side characters. Basically, the story is that the Doctor and Jamie and Victoria land on a planet where there's an archaeological expedition searching for the last remains of the Cybermen, which they end up finding in. Basically, they find the tomb on Telos, and there's just a bunch of characters who are hilarious. Like, you have basically have our human villains, which are Klieg and Keftin, who are both over the top, and I'd say they might even be pantomime villains, but that might just be pushing a little too far. But they're just the two villains that are they're just very, very comedic villains, and they they just sort of you get the feeling they it's like, we want to be taken seriously, but we're not going to be taken seriously because we're so dumb. And I love them as I love them as characters. They're both great characters, and they both know how to make them. Basically, they both know how to be quite on the side of creepy. And a lot of people say that this is one where Victoria really doesn't get much to do, but she's really good. There are points where she really calls out Captain's like, "Oh, Captain, I know you're evil. You must be evil because, well, I can tell that you're acting evil." There's that, and then that's really all I have to say. Is that Victoria's great. Deborah Watling, Patrick Troughton, and Fraser Hines they all have amazing chemistry together, and they all really feel like they're crazy. They feel like they're best friends having fun. And you just sort of you get the feeling that they're just there to have fun, take names, and they're just gonna have a lot of fun doing their story, and it's great. A lot of the episode is just set up as we do the tune. Like, there are points where the Doctor sort of gives bullshit math, which is hilarious. Mainly just because it's one of those things where it's like, he's the Doctor. You think he should know math, but no, he's really, really quite. He's a little bit, dumb. That's. I think that's about everything I want to talk about. I'm not sure if have I missed stuff. I don't think so. So I'm going to give The Tomb of the Cybermen Episode 1 a 9 out of 10, just because there was the problem with the episode being having a really bad cliffhanger, and the character of Toberman is a bit... a bit... Well, he might be a bit racist. I know the script really was intending him to be deaf, but they're just... Which I'll give him a small pass, but it's just... It could have been better. But still, Tomb of the Cybermen Episode 1 gets a 9 out of 10. Alright, it is the 24th of November 2017, and I just finished watching The Tomb of the Cybermen Episode 2. And I very much have to say that this episode was even better than the first one. Mainly starting off with the cliffhanger repeat. The cliffhanger repeat on the resolution is actually quite clever. It's not that the Cybermen are alive. It's this big mystery that they're actually in a weapons testing room, and the Cybermen, well, it's still dead. Again, where I gave points off, the big cliffhanger of this one is that these Cybermen are being resurrected, and they have this leader, the Cyber Controller, this is the first time we've actually seen a Cyberman that isn't like the Cyberman leader, who isn't like the regular one. He has a very interesting design, with this big domed head. I think it's supposed to be like a brain, but I can't really tell. But it's still a really, really cool design. I really enjoy the way the cyber leader looks and moves at the end. Again, this episode is still very much... Well, the Cybermen, they don't appear yet. They haven't appeared yet. They aren't. So we're still relying on the villains of Klieg and Captain, and they are deliciously evil villains. Klieg is kind of a bumbling idiot, and Captain is just like this sort of... She's almost a femme fatale, and I really like it. Deborah Watling as Victoria. A lot of people call her a screamer, even in this story, where she really isn't screaming. No, she's cleverly trying to, sort of get at the Doctor and Jamie. Like, she doesn't know how, because she's obviously from Victorian times, so she doesn't really understand the technology all that well, which, makes sense. You can make allowances for that, because she's, not of the time. She's a character from a different time period, and it's really, really good the way that they do it. They just have her sort of act like she's sort of... I don't want to say it's like acting normal, but she is sort of acting like she's letting this come in its stride and be like, right, I've got to save my friends. It's going to be great. And, it's great. And Fraser Hines and Patrick Troughton are great. Patrick Troughton as the Doctor is great. He's very, very manipulative here. In the last one, he had a great line, I keep my eyes open and my ears shut. It's one of those great... and then this one, he's egging Klieg on, like, okay, go ahead. I want to see this. Mainly because I don't think he sort of takes into account the whole idea that the Cybermen could possibly be alive. I think he truly believes that they are still... That the reason this is the tomb of the Cybermen, because the Cybermen are in tombs. They're not living. They are extinct, and it's great. You also have this whole... They have to stay there for the night because the basically because the rocket sabotaged by the servant Toberman. And the guy who plays Toberman, even though it's not necessarily the most... It's not the best portrayal of a black guy. I know in the script that it was supposed to be just a deaf guy who's a strongman, and they happened to unfortunately cast him as a black guy, which is kind of... I won't hold it against him, just because Morris Berry, the guy who directed this, also directed the Moon Base, where he did have African-American actors in... They weren't the big roles, but they were in big enough roles. There was a named African-American character and he was a scientist, though he did end up dying. Again, also a Cyberman story, so I won't hold it against him, but it's just a little... It just makes me groan a little bit, because... and I won't even hold him against in this one, because Toberman, he has these amazing... He pulls these amazing, little faces in the background. Seriously, watch the guy act. The guy's acting his socks off just by doing, just sort of in the background, and it's great. Also, the set design of the tombs and the sequence of the Cybermen emerging from the tombs is amazing. The Cybermats are they were introduced in the last one, but they're still there, and they're still kind of adorable. We haven't seen them move yet, which is interesting. And they are great. And then it's there's that. Everything else is interesting. Everything in this episode is just... This episode, the cliffhanger is great as it's not the Cybermen, it's the Cybermen are alive, which is, and they are taking control of the situation. It's sort of, Klieg and Captain are sort of like the villains of like, we'll make the Cybermen bow to us even though there's no way we really can. It's a big reveal, and I really like that. So I'm going to give The Tomb of the Cybermen episode 2 a 10 out of 10 cuz it's just been so good. Alright, it is the 25th of November 2017, and I just finished watching The Tomb of the Cybermen episode 3, and I have to say that this episode continues the stellar track record of the previous 2 episodes excellently. This is very much an episode of 2 halves, both of them equally brilliant. The first half is basically escaping the Cybermen tomb and getting back up into the, I guess you could call it the antechamber, or the main chamber, or basically getting back above ground, because you have the Cybermen, they've woken up, and they essentially, they know that, that everyone's there, and it's like, well, we set this was a trap for you, because you're all humans, and we know that that's exactly what that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted you to basically be all, basically think that you were safe. No, we were planning this the entire time, and it is a great plan. I think that, it makes very much sense. It's it's all intensely logical, basically, so it's like, well, this is how it was supposed to happen, which is good. I also have to say that the fact that the second, that you have just everyone, you have sort of the story. Well, this is all going on. You have the story. I guess you kind of have to call it upstairs. Yeah, it's upstairs where it's like, you have Victoria basically trying to get the hatch open. That is that's a great story, and I love the way that it's done. You sort of have everything, give everything just a solid 100% conclusion, so to speak. You get the feeling that everything was meant to just sort of build up to this, and that is some of the best parts of the story. It feels like we have the conclusion. We know that this is where it's supposed to go. This is how everything is supposed to be, and I think that's just great. It makes perfect sense the way it needs to, and it sort of fills in the gaps very well. That's really the first half. The second half is sort of the much more against the human villains of Klieg and Captain, who are both great villains. They are just some of the, sort of the funniest villains, but also the most threatening. Like, the big cliffhanger is that it's not a Cybermen attack. No, it's the villains are just gonna go ahead and shoot our companions, which is, it's a good way of rounding out the episode. And you have this lovely moment in the middle between Patrick Troughton and Deborah Watling that really sort of cements their relationship. Mainly, so it's like, basically, Victoria's stays up on her watch later just because she's convinced, well, the doctor's old, so, I don't want to see him hurt, so I'm just gonna keep myself awake, and let him sleep on, which is, it's just a good little sort of, it's just a good little hook, and you have this dialogue between them about family, and it really just has to be listened to for itself. It's become a very iconic moment, mainly for the reason that it is so touching for the Doctor and Victoria just to be talking to each other, and I love it. So that being said, I'm going to give The Tomb of the Cybermen episode 3 another 10 out of 10 because it really just sort of hits home, mainly for it's the little things that count. Alright, it is still the 25th of November 2017, and this is the first time I've actually done double duty on an episode since all the way back in September, before that big break. But, I am back, and we have the Tomb of the Cybermen episode 4, and thank goodness this episode ends just as strong as the other episodes have. What's interesting, I find, though, is that the story goes under this insane tonal shift in episode 4. A lot of this is the Cybermen are invading the villains, so the villains have to get defeated at the last minute, and everyone has to band together to save the day. And I really like it. It's a good ending. It's a good way of ending the story, and it proves that this one was sort of the classic that it touted itself to be to a lot of the older fans who saw it on original broadcast about it before it went missing for a while, and then of course it turned back up pretty recently, I believe, and it actually turned back up again. That is rather interesting. So there is the story is it's basically escape the tomb and seal him back in. The big drama comes in with Toberman, who is converted. He's not fully converted, but we see him partially converted into a Cyberman, which in black and white the effect really works. If it were in color, it probably wouldn't work as well, but I'm glad because this is a black and white story, and that is what we're judging it on. That is what we have, and that really helps you sort of get the illusion that, everything is really like this. So you have, the great conclusion, an excellent way of getting it to everything just to sort of fall in line and fall into place, and I really did enjoy this one. I enjoyed the ending. It was really, really good. And that is pretty much what I have to say. That's not necessarily everything. Of course, the entire the big story is ending with of course, Toberman regaining some of his humanity, and I really like that. I think that's what the authors were going for here, and I think it actually comes across much better than it really should have. That being said, the story it fills itself out. It knows how to hit all the right marks and give us something really, really, really good. The episode just feels like we know where everything is going now, I'm gonna have to give the Tomb of the Cybermen episode 4 another 10 out of 10, rounding out this story. That being said, we average up each episode of the 4 episodes of the Tomb of the Cybermen to get the final score, with the Tomb of the Cybermen earning the Patrick Troughton year's first 9.5 out of 10. Thank you, everybody, for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. And please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And join me next time on the Ultimate Doctor Marathon, where we do the next Patrick Troughton story in The Abominable SNOWMEN.